There's nobody that I know other than trust fund friends, okay, that haven't had to do any work to achieve their success. Nobody that I know, whether it's Tony Hsieh, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's Mark Cuban, it doesn't make, Richard Branson, Oprah Winfrey, doesn't make a difference. They've all had to take actions.
So the more you're grateful, the more you have to be grateful for. The more you train your brain to be grateful, the more it looks and becomes habituated to look for other things to be grateful for. The key is to remember you're not your brain, you're not the Einstein part, you're not the Frankenstein part. There's another side of you that is much greater than all of it.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 for my top 10. Top 10, 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because chances are you are the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, John Assaraf, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Take the right action.
The stuff that I'm fascinated with is behavior, right? Perception and behavior is how I see myself and how people see themselves and why, and then how they see the world and why. And then we know that the action, I mean, you know, in The Secret, you mentioned earlier, I was in The Secret, and the thing I loved about The Secret is it gave people some hope that changing my thinking really can make a difference. But there's also the other part of it. You know, in the law of attraction, there was one thing that was left out, and it was called the law of Goya. And the law of Goya is the G-O-Y-A law. It's the get off your ass law. There's nobody that I know other than trust fund friends, okay, that haven't had to do any work to achieve their success. Nobody that I know, whether it's Tony Hsieh, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's Mark Cuban, it doesn't make, Richard Branson, Oprah Winfrey, doesn't make a difference. They've all had to take actions, but it's not just any action. It's taking the right actions in the right order at the right time consistently. And so I've been fascinated with how do we help people develop the mental, emotional, and behavioral habits that lead to success. Because that's the key. Mindset, skill set, and action set. That's the formula.
Rule number 2, have a vision board.
I have my vision boards, and I actually have my Exceptional Life Blueprint that I've created. It's about 50 pages of my prayers, my rituals, for my spiritual growth, health, wealth, my money story, my inner mission, my outer mission. Wow. You know, some of the stuff, you know, either that I have or that I'm creating. And so I create these visual representations to trigger the biggest part of my brain called the occipital lobe and to activate my memory center. So I have vision boards for what I want to create. So I'm giving my brain the exact instructions so that not only it focuses helping me achieve that, what most people don't understand about vision boards or creating goals in writing that are specific is that your brain is a deletion and distortion tool as well. So if you give your brain the instruction of this is the stuff that's important to me for health, God, spirituality, charity, fun, experiences, my children, my mother, my father, myself, whatever it is, and you say this is what I want to trade my life for, delete and distort everything else. Now all of a sudden you're using your brain as a deletion and distortion organism in order to be able to help you hyper-focus on what you want.
Rule number 3, take responsibility.
I got really inquisitive and curious early on with, can I control more of the cause of my results? And that required responsibility. And when I was younger, it was like, I was more into the blame game. It's because of him, because of her, because of it, because of the market, because of where I live, because of my mother, my father, how old I am or how young I am, how Asian or Caucasian I am. It doesn't make a difference. So a lot of my upbringing caused me to look outside of myself. And when I looked inside myself and took the prerequisite of responsibility. I own it.
Yes.
And I can change it.
So important.
That transformed my life. That, that really started to put things into perspective.
Rule number 4, practice gratitude.
Mark Waldman, in his little training over here, says 7 days of gratitude exercise. The more you focus on your thoughts, the more your brain becomes habituated to it. The brain tends to pay more attention to negative thoughts. This is based on the instinctual parts of the brain. We can train ourselves to focus on the positives as well. At the end of the day, he says, write down 3 things you feel grateful for and 3 things you did well. This can change your brain. You only have to do it for 7 days and you will see your self-esteem grow for 3 months. So when we are giving you, gratitude things to do, anything we're teaching you to do, it's all based in neuroscience research. And so the more you're grateful, the more you have to be grateful for. The more you train your brain to be grateful, the more it looks and becomes habituated to look for other things to be grateful for.
Hey, this is John Assaraf, and do you love good books? I love to read because there's so much wisdom in books. You get to take somebody else's knowledge, skills, research, pay $15-20, and you learn so much. Now, I'm reading this awesome book called Built to Serve. Find your purpose and become the leader you were born to be. And one of my new friends, really smart guy, really great guy who serves a lot of people, Evan Carmichael, wrote it, and I'm going to read a little bit from chapter number 1. And I love this piece, and maybe it's because I just watched the series on TV on Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, which is really great, by the way, also. But one of the things he says here is everybody has Michael Jordan talent at something. Everybody has a Michael Jordan talent at something. You just haven't found it yet. Or you have and you don't believe in yourself enough to go all in. To go all in, right? And you're a genius. I believe you're a genius. And so does he. You're amazing. You are not meant to live a photocopy of someone else's life. You were not created to wake up and do work that is below your capabilities. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something, and you need to uncover exactly what your purpose is and how you can serve and use the serve. So lots of pearls and gems and motivational pieces. Pick up Built to Serve. Evan Carmichael, rising star.
Rule number 5, understand how the brain works.
There's Einstein, which represents our left prefrontal cortex, the smart genius part of our brain that has imagination, that can come up with all the ideas of what about this, I can have this, I can have this. But what most people don't understand is we also have, right, a Frankenstein part of our brain, the inner critic, that says, but you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, what if you fail, what if you're embarrassed, what if you're ashamed? So we have this, that's why I have them. There's Einstein and there's Frankenstein, just to remind me and to remind my students that both exist within us. And our goal is to understand that, the way our brain works is there's always a protective side of our brain. So Frankenstein's always going, what if you fail? What if you succeed and fail? What if you disappoint yourself? And Einstein's going, don't worry about it. Imagine the future. And so there's this constant battle in our brains, going on. And our goal, and meditation is one of the best ways to recognize that both exist and both are right. Your Frankenstein part of your brain is there to protect you. Your Einstein brain is ready to help you achieve your goals and dreams. And the key is to remember, you're not your brain. You're not the Einstein part. You're not the Frankenstein part. There's another side of you that is much greater than all of it.
Rule number 6, train yourself.
I thought I was afraid of public speaking.
Right.
I thought that was, I would just say I'm a bad public speaker. That was my story. Well, you're absolutely right. What you said, that's what it was. I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of rejection.
Right.
And that was what was holding me back.
And these are subconscious patterns, right? So the feeling, is this uncomfortable, just very uncomfortable. It's stressful. It creates anxiety. And so it's not the public speaking. So the question is, where did you learn to have this idea that speaking in public causes you to be embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, or judged. And here's what a lot of people will say if you ask them, like, where did that come from? They'll say, well, when I was a kid in class and, the teacher asked a question and I answered and the answer was wrong, the other kids made fun of me. Or the teacher said, no, that's not the right answer. And they were embarrassed and the other kids ridiculed them. So like, who the hell wants that? So if our brain is focusing on wiring, whatever keeps us safe and whatever keeps pain away, we avoid pain, or we'll do anything to avoid pain way before we do anything to gain pleasure. And so survival first, avoidance of pain second, before we gain pleasure. So if there's any real or imagined danger where we're going to be emotionally hurt, mentally hurt, physically hurt, financially hurt, our brain gives us this signal, be aware. This may be one of those times. It says, be aware, this may be one of those times. And so the cycle, the neural circuit, the cycle shouldn't stop there. But when people haven't been trained on, here are my 6 core emotions, here are my feelings that those emotions cause, and here's what to do. When this emotion is triggered, do this. When this emotion is triggered, do that.
Yep.
And what you want to do is learn when the emotion of fear is triggered, the neurochemistry is adrenaline, cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine. That's like this high anxiety rocket fuel within us. Now, in most people, it causes them to just stop, put on the brake. But how is it that a firefighter, could see a building blowing up in front of them, a building crashing down, a raging fire, and yet she musters up the courage to use that fuel from fear and go in? It's because she's been trained.
Yep.
It's because she's been trained.
Rule number 7, celebrate small wins.
I tend to be a goal-seeking guy, right? And I used to not celebrate the small stuff. And I used to just like, bigger goal, more, bigger. And somebody says to me, like, are you going to like slow down just to enjoy some of the stuff that you actually have done for yourself and for people in your family? And I was like, well, let me create an accomplish board.
So good.
Right,
Biggest
so
struggle for me too.
So accomplish board, you passed that test on your own 40 years ago. Celebrate that. You helped this person who was challenged, and celebrate that. You did this for him or for her or for yourself. Celebrate that stuff to remind yourself, because I'm tough on myself. Let's go. It's a goal. Let's go. And sometimes I forget the stuff that I have done, the stuff that I do that I need to remember. So I created an accomplishments board and a list so I can just go to it when I feel like, holy shit, am I smart enough to achieve that next thing? Am I good enough? What a lot of people don't know, Ed, is
So good.
When I was a kid, I used to feel like I wasn't smart enough. And when I was a kid, it held me back. And today I still feel like I'm not smart enough, and that fuels me to get smarter. So I use it. Like I set big goals. I go, God, I don't have the skills. I don't have the knowledge, but I can figure it out. I've got contacts. I've got friends. And there's books. There's Google. There's YouTube. There's holy mackerel. I don't need to have all the specialized knowledge anymore.
Rule number 8, practice breathing exercises.
Let's say you have a shortage of money right now. Let's say you're not earning as much as you'd like, and there's too much month left at the end of the money. Too much month left at the end of money creates stress. Decisions around money can create stress. What to buy, what not to buy. Is it too expensive? Is it, not expensive enough for my taste? Whatever the stress is. I want you to understand stress a little bit differently from the brain perspective. This is the part of the brain, the brain stem that is attached to the first part of the brain called the reptilian brain, which is connected very, very quickly to the amygdala, the stress response center in the brain. When we have stress in our life, whether it's money stress, emotional stress, relationship stress, business stress, career stress, whatever stress we have, the signal that is sent through the electrical system in the brain and the chemical system in the brain when stress is activated. There's a part of the brain called the vagus nerve and the sympathetic nervous system, which is part of your autonomic nervous system. But the sympathetic nervous system specifically is the system that activates, the stress response system activates one of four things: fear, okay? And we'll talk about fear in just a moment, but when we're in a state of stress, the fight or flight response kicks in, the sympathetic nervous system. So when we're in a fight mindset, we are using a lot of epinephrine, adrenaline, cortisol, and there's this current of anxiety. Now, that's not that bad if it's a little bit, but when it's too much, it actually deactivates the thinking part of your brain that can actually solve the reason you're stressed. So when we are in this fight or flight, which is runaway modality, or the freeze or faint modality, there are people who freeze when they're under too much stress. There are people who faint under too much stress. There are people who run away, and there's people who just try to fight it. So when we are looking at the brain and we're looking at stress, okay, and this is what Heidi's talking about here. She says stress is our own GPS system saying that something is out of alignment, and the energy movement from the calm and respond part of the brain is gone to the stress and react part of the brain. And so one of the tools to calm the brain down, to go from reactive stress to relax and respond, is Innercise number 1 that we teach, and that you're all going to be able to learn in my new book called Innercise. But Innercise number 1 is called Take 6, Calm the Circuits. So whenever you're feeling stressed, whenever there's a problem, whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, whenever you're feeling confused, whenever you're feeling like it's too much, stop. As opposed to trying to fight your way through it, stop, calm down, close your eyes, take 6 deep breaths like this. In through your nose, gently, in a rhythm of about 6 breaths per minute, every 10 seconds. And when you do a breathing exercise, take 6, calm the circuits, that's Innercise number 1, you actually deactivate the stress response center in the brain and you activate the calm and respond part of the brain.
Rule number 9, turn your fear into fuel.
Highly successful people, whether they're taught it like we teach it, or they just know how to do it automatically, they do it. They feel fear, and then they release that fear, and they take action anyway. So they can turn their fear into fuel is one of the things that we teach people how to do. Turn your fear into your fuel. And when you turn your fear into your fuel in a calm, centered way, you now are able to use that neuroelectrical chemical called epinephrine or cortisol, the stress hormones, and use them to fuel your success faster and easier than ever before.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is look for the cause.
You just reminded me of something that I learned that I think people will benefit from is an anxiety attack, stress, panic, ulcerative colitis. All of these things are effects, right? So they're effects. So the question is, what's the cause?
Yes.
Right? So most people are focusing on either, suppressing the effects, depressing the effects, masking the effects. They're doing everything but going, what's causing this?
Yep.
And if we look at the world of cause, whether it's in our physical body, whether it's our relationship, whether it's our bank account, whether it's our business, whatever the result is, every result in the physical world is an effect. So the question is, what causes the results? And one of the greatest laws in the universe is the law of cause and effect. And it states that for every effect, there's a cause. And for every cause, there's an effect.
Now I've got a very special bonus clip that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? When you get motivated, inspired, you have a 35% chance of following through. But when you get motivated, inspired, and you create a plan of action, you have a over 90% chance of following through. And when you share it with other people, it jumps to 95% chance, your likelihood of following through. And so I want that to be you from this video. We don't just watch videos here, Believe Nation. We do something. We take action. So I want to know your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week. Leave it down in the comments below because I want to celebrate you.
So there's something that we teach called cognitive priming. What's cognitive priming? First and foremost, we know that each one of us has 35 to 50,000 thoughts a day. And those are just random thoughts that are happening within our brains. And not only are we having internal thoughts, which is different from thinking, but just thoughts, just neurons firing thoughts, we also have an enormous amount of influence from our external world. You know, people trying to get at us, whether it's advertisers, whether it's friends, whether it's whatever it is, there's enormous amounts of information coming into your brain. So your brain is consistently analyzing, deleting and distorting what it needs, what it doesn't need for survival first, and for you to achieve whatever it is you've become comfortable achieving. The patterns run your life. So, why use a vision board? Why look at your goals every day? Why emotionalize them? Like, why? Because your brain is really, really, really smart in some ways. Let me explain. If you take some time every day, like every morning and before you go to bed every night, to say, hey, here's what I see myself being, doing, accomplishing. If I do that every day, then I am priming my brain to focus on what it is I want it to focus on. Now, visualization is one of the best ways known to access the non-conscious operating system of the brain. And if you do that on a regular basis and you see yourself, you develop the pattern in your brain first, the brain then looks for things in the physical world to match the pattern.
If you want 10 more amazing rules from John Assaraf, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
So if one side of your brain is going negativity first, great. Learn to flip the switch. Go, great. What's the positive side of that? Meditation is a practice of awareness.